If you're passionate enough about what you do, if you're good enough at what you do, all your dreams can come true in this town.
No matter what kind of music you make, there's a place for you here that you're gonna be liked and loved.
That's what put Nashville ahead of other places. It was heart and soul.
There's been this massive convergence of musicians from all around the world.
There really are no parameters, you know, there are no walls. You can do whatever you want to do in Nashville.
I love New York and I love LA, but Nashville is the place I want to come home to.
Nashville has always referred to itself around the world as Music City, and I think we will forever be known as a country music capital of the world. But Music City, if you look at it from a distance, that's a broad term.
Even if your genre of music isn't big in Nashville, chances are the roots where that music came from has had a place in Nashville.
And it was built on the kind of music that was being invented and developing in real time in this city, and it's all documented.
I got a crown up in the kingdom, in that good news. In that good news. I got a crown up in the kingdom, in that good news. In that good news, I'm gonna lay down this world, gonna shoulder up my cross, gonna take it home to my Jesus. Into that good news, good news.
The Fisk School was established in 1866 with the purpose of educating the freed slaves.
The burden of being a Jubilee singer is heavy. It's very heavy because it comes with so much history.
When the school was running out of money and was about to be closed, they traveled all over the United States and raised $20,000.
Everybody listened to opera. Then comes the Negro spirituals, creating an entirely new form of music, an entirely new form of art, and then taking that art all over the entire world. And it started here, in this very building.
Good news, my Lord.
You'll hear the music of old-time fiddles, the singing, dancing, and fun of America's greatest tradition in entertainment. The Grand Ole Opry, live.
I think if you really go back to where it all began, I think we owe a lot to an insurance company, believe it or not. The National Life and Accident Insurance Company, who owned radio station WSM, which stood for We Shield Millions. And when WSM started a show on Saturday nights called the WSM Barn Dance to start with, and then later when they called it the Grand Ole Opry for the first time, it kind of put roots down here.
It wasn't, we're gonna be the country music mecca of the world. They're trying to sell insurance, you know, but it caught on.
Everybody could tell you Monday morning what song Roy Acuff sung and what joke Minnie Pearl or Rod Brassfield told or what song Hank Williams sung or what they said. The whole thing about the Grand Ole Opry, and it took on a mystique and an ambience that you couldn't imagine actually being there.
When I first arrived in the city, I felt really lost, you know. I had a suitcase, suit and tie, and my mandolin case, and that's all I have. And I thought, well, maybe I'm in the wrong place. So I went around to the other side of the Greyhound station and came face to face with the Ryman Auditorium. And it almost made me cry because that was the place that I had listened to music come off of that stage and went straight to my heart with a 50,000-watt era behind it, you know?
There's something about standing on that stage. And the fact is, it sounds fantastic. I mean, people come from all over to play there, and it's one of the most beautiful sounding rooms. It's a certain intangible because they kept it, the sanctity of that inner room. you know that it's going to sound exactly as it did the night that Hank Williams first performed there.
When I was a junior in high school, a bunch of us kids got together and pooled money together to buy gas. We got somebody with a car, and we drove up to see Grand Ole Opry. And it was like, wow. You know, we just got to the land of Oz here. It was like everything was, there's the Ryman Auditorium, there's WSM, there's this, there's that, there's Ernest Tubb. There's Ernest Tubb Record Shop.
I go out walking after midnight, out in the moonlight, just like we used to do. I'm always walking after midnight, searching for you.
Everything else grew up here because the Grand Ole Opry was the trunk of the tree, it was the foundation, and the recording studios came here, the entertainers came here, the songwriters came here, the production people came here.
16th and 17th Avenue South was Music Row, and to me it was like, you know, heaven.
I stopped to see a weeping willow crying on his pillow.
And the thing that's interesting to me about Music Row, Owen Bradley and a couple other guys just basically made it up as they went. And you know, these were just houses, just basically homes on a street. And they started making music, and hits started coming, and they needed more.
Owen Bradley was a genius, you know, and he's probably, I mean, he's responsible for modern day country. He's also probably partly responsible for rock and roll, if not completely responsible. I mean, he really was a pioneer, not only musically, but sound-wise. I mean, his records sounded a very special way. And I think that in order to have a really successful scene, you have to have visionaries. And he was one of them. Somebody like Owen Bradley was why Cowboy Jack decided to move up here from Memphis. You know, why these people who worked at studios decided to come here. It's because you could go to Owen Bradley's and he could make you sound like $1 million.
Well, I was raised in a town called Philadelphia, Mississippi, and we had a big console stereo in our living room. You know, it looked like a piece of furniture. But the thing I remember, it had the greatest bass. I mean, it would rattle the windows. There was just such a profound low end. And that was a direct link to Nashville and this place here, Studio B. Many years later, I walked into the control room. Lester Flatt stood right over there, and I think I was here, and the band was around. But when we went back into that control room to listen to the playback, that same low end that rattled the windows at my house was rattling the walls in there. This room confounded the wires. It's a $30,000 Brico block building with some tile on the wall. People spend millions these days. And this, in my opinion, is a cathedral of American music. Some of the most notable people, master architects, musical architects that have ever stood before, you know, the light that stood in this room. That was 40 years ago, and I've never looked back.
The history of Nashville is very much intact, and you can feel it. I mean, you can feel it when you're in the Ryman, you can feel it when you're walking the sidewalk on Broadway. I mean, you can feel it in so many different parts of town. Wherever you are, you're reminded of people that have come before you. But there's always room to grow and to write that next song.
I hear something hanging on the wind. I see black smoke up around the bend. I got my ticket and I'm going to go home.
you know, looking back, when you talk about people like Patsy Cline, Dolly Parton, and Loretta Lynn, those are our heroes. They really paved the way.
I have a fondness for old sounds, you know, and history in music, and Nashville just sort of fit the bill. I decided to move here, and it's like, it's been the greatest. I love it here.
So when Dan decided to move, like 2 weeks later, we were here playing a show at the Ryman, and I went and looked at houses, found a house, bought it, and just decided to move down.
I came to Nashville, I think in probably 91 or 92.
Once I first came for a writing session, I never left.
Well, we moved to Nashville not really knowing anyone, and John got the job with Garth Brooks as his production manager. So I got a job selling T-shirts for Garth.
You know, we have a lot of friends that are bands, and we would always tell them, man, you got to get to Nashville. It's like this uncharted territory.
I came to Nashville with a $20 bill and a clutch out of my car. You know, just one of those Nashville stories, and there are thousands of them here, the people that came to town on one leg, you might say, and that wanted to be here. That's how bad we wanted to be here.
And I remember walking down this actual street here and seeing a lot of people just sitting here, playing guitars and singing, and I was like, all right, that's my first gig, you know, this is what I gotta do. I would sing for hours throughout the night. People would come by and put money in my case.
I got this fire, baby, burning inside. This kind of thing will keep you up all night.
And I remember one particular night, I was playing in this very corner, and this guy walks by with a big black cowboy hat and a handlebar mustache, and he says, is that your own music? Like, is that your stuff? And I was like, yeah. He's like, man, you sound amazing.
From this slow burn, hot like fire, melting in my desire. Can't seem to fight this urge, 'cause I'm haunted by this slow burn.
He's like, play me something else. So I played another tune, and before I knew it, we were jamming together. We're trading off guitars, and he says, I want you to come hang with me. And at the time, I didn't know who the guy was. Later to find out it was John Rich from the country duo Big and Rich. And that's how I got my start here in Nashville.
Johnny Cash was such an inspiration to me. I've never met anybody quite like him. For years, I'd been his janitor at the recording studio, and I figured I would get his attention. I landed a helicopter on John's lawn. I almost landed on his house, but he wasn't even there. His groundskeeper came and picked up the tape that I was bringing. Then John made up this great story about how I landed there with a bottle of beer in one hand and a tape in the other.
When we first moved to Nashville, the proper Southern thing, we had to find a good church to go to. So we went on a Sunday night, got there, the air conditioning was broken, so they canceled church that night. So we had the night free, so we're like, we've heard about this Bluebird Cafe place, so, you know, we heard Vince Gill got his start there, or Garth Brooks. We just heard the long list of people, so we decided to go there, and we bumped into this guy in line. He said, are y'all performing tonight? We're like, no, we're just here, you know, we're just here watching the show or whatever. He's like, well, I'm a guitar player, so if you guys ever need, you know, a guitar player, let me know. We got his info. And at that time, we were just writing and singing a cappella, and that's how we found someone to put music to our lyrics, and then we ended up going back there and playing with that guy. So I would say Bluebird had a huge impact on the start of the band, and having to go there and sing at 7 a.m., 8 a.m. just to make the cut is a pretty brutal thing, especially just two guys with their voices, but we made the cut.
You go down to the Bluebird and see people, you know, showcasing their songs, a lot of great musicians, and people that become really good friends.
This is the place that people come to write songs. As we all travel the world and we write in other great cities like Los Angeles and London and New York and Miami and all kinds of places, I think this is kind of globally recognized as sort of the epicenter of at least song crafting.
I know the day that Craig Wiseman and I wrote Live Like You Were Dying, I mean, we didn't have a clue we were going to write that song that day. And I was telling Craig a story that I'd heard the day before about a friend of ours who'd had a health scare. I was just relaying the story, not thinking one thing about a song. And that reminded Craig of a story he'd heard on NPR about a woman who'd been diagnosed with cancer. And she said before she died, she wanted to go mountain climbing in the Rockies. And we started, talking about people, with faced with some sort of crisis, they respond in this really cool, unique way.
He said, I was in my early 40s with a lot of life before me. When a moment came that stopped me on a dime. He said, I spent most of the next day looking at the x-ray, talking about the options, talking about sweet time.
And then we ended up getting it to McGraw, and he recorded it. And I think his dad, Tug McGraw, at the time was battling a terminal illness, and I just think he took it to a whole another level.
I went skydiving, I went Rocky Mountain climbing, I went 2.7 seconds on a bull named Fu Manchu, and I loved deeper, and I spoke sweeter, and I gave forgiveness I've been denying. And he said, someday I hope you get the chance to live like you were dying.
The power to seeing 20,000 people sing my song, along with, I've also seen a handful of people be moved at the Bluebird. I mean, it's unbelievable that, especially when you've held the pen.
It's that awkward, what's going to happen here kind of moment when you start to write a song. You got a blank sheet of paper looking at you, and what are we going to put on it? And so we kind of started tossing around some thoughts, and Gordy said, I got one idea for a title. It's called When Jesus Takes the Wheel. And I immediately laughed. I thought, well, that's about the silliest thing I ever heard. And Hillary kind of chuckled, and we kind of tried to get our heads around that for a minute and moved on to something else. What do you think? Well, let's talk about some other titles. That one, I'm not sure about that one. She had a lot on her mind and she didn't pay attention. She was going way too fast. Before she knew it, she was spinning on a thin black sheet of glass. She saw both their lives flash before her eyes. She didn't even have time to cry. She was so scared. She threw her hands up in the air.
The song, the reason that they're powerful is that they get immediately right to your heart and to your soul, and that's what changes the way you are.
Music can heal, it can make somebody feel like they're not alone, it can make somebody happy, it can take you back in time to where you were when you first heard the song. I mean, it's just a really powerful thing.
These people come up to me and they would sit there and talk about this song going, you have no idea that song that you wrote that came out in 1991 completely changed my life. And you're sort of taken back by it, just going, wow, that's amazing.
Jesus, take the wheel and take it from my hands, 'cause I can't do this on my own. I'm letting go, so give me one more chance and save me from this road I'm on. Jesus, take the wheel.
We always wanted the song to be the best thing and then go from there. That's how the band was formed. It was like, well, we have a handful of songs that we think are pretty good. Now we just have to learn how to play the instruments so we can play them ourselves. And so then as soon as you start picking up an instrument with us, we just kind of play around each other. And it's like, well, that's good, so I'm gonna have to come up with something that's as good as that, and then he'll do it, and he'll do it. And it never gets old. When you're up there and you see the connection with the crowd and you see people singing it back to you, it's like, wow, that's the song that we wrote in the garage.
We've never ever made a song and then like hit playback in the studio and been like, oh man, that's gonna be like something big. It's usually the opposite. It's like, I don't think that will ever get played on the radio, or hopefully someone listens to that, you know. And actually at one point when we were making Brothers, like, oh, maybe that'll hopefully, like, people will hear that on a commercial, you know? Who knows? That's the only way people were hearing our singles.
I don't know, it's like our 5th record, man. We tried to think about songs differently, and then we wrote a song and it became a radio hit. There is like a sense of challenge to write a song that is catchy, but not cheesy. You know what I mean? Like fun to listen to, it's got hooks, but doesn't sound like pop drivel.
First time I heard Chris Christopherson do Sunday Morning Coming Down, there was something about, and nobody's ever gonna accuse, you know, Chris of being the greatest singer ever, but it kind of sent me off into this almost obsessive craze of trying to figure out who these songwriters were. It was the authenticity and the grit that I heard from the guy that had penned that song.
The guys that know how to build that thing. I mean, man, I just saw Chris Christopherson sing a song, and it was like, really? I mean, it's like, I just want to, you know that he's erased better lines than I'll ever write.
I'd smoke my brain the night before on cigarettes and songs that I'd been picking. But I lit my first and watched a small kid cussing at a can that he was kicking. Then I crossed the empty street and caught the Sunday smell of someone frying chicken. And it took me back to something that I'd lost somehow, somewhere along the way.
On the Sunday morning sidewalk, wishing, Lord, that I was stoned. 'Cause there's something about a Sunday that makes the body feel alone.
And there's nothing short of dying half as lonesome as the sound on the sleeping city sidewalks. Sunday morning coming down.
No matter who you are, whether songs you're writing, it's the music you're making, it's the way you look. If it's not authentic, if people don't believe it, you're cooked.
They'll take a really good-looking kid and put him in a pair of tight jeans and, you know, give him voice lessons and this lesson and that lesson and the other lesson. They'll put him on stage, and they've made a persona for this guy that maybe does not belong to him.
Some bands go out there and really push an image, you know? They push what they want to be labeled as or portrayed. They dress a certain way, or they act a certain way. I think it's just best to be yourself, whatever that is.
My old friend Johnny Cash, 1956, he was coming out with I Walk the Line, I think. That song, and it was a big hit, and he says, brother, I think I'm gonna need suits for the road. I have about 50 shows to do. And I made them up, sent them to him, and he gets on the phone and says, brother, what happened? I said, what do you mean? He says, well, I got the suits. How come they are all black? I said, because that's the way I picture you. You're a kind of a sinister person. You have that persona, that aura about you. And sure enough, I would say about 4 or 5 months later, he said, I want more clothes. Just go ahead and make me whatever you want. He says, by the way, we're not discussing the color anymore from now on. And that's how Johnny became the man in black.
Well, you wonder why I always dress in black.
Why you never see bright colors on my back.
Style is a product of your limitations. Otherwise, we just had music, and everybody would be able to sing everything in the same style, the same way, and it would be nothing. You know, it would just be a wall of sound that had no emotion. I basically had a folk-sounding voice, but through singing country music, I came up with my own unique sound. So the blend of the two. But then I just was determined. I just wanted to sing the songs that I wanted to sing. I've always loved the song.
Trouble, we have known trouble in our struggle just to get by. Many times the burden's been heavy, still we carried on side by side.
And I love that line in L.A. I saw a bumper sticker that says, "Welcome to L.A. Pick a decade and fit in." Nashville's pick a genre, fit in. So that's what it's about. Play what's in your heart, and it'll take you to the right place.
Have you noticed how much more the scene is changing, or how much bigger it is?
I mean, I remember like when I went off to college, and people were still kind of like, "Oh well, Nashville, where's your like your hay thing in your mouth and your banjo?" I mean, and then
no one said hey, did they?
They did.
Whoa, oh, all right.
You know, I feel like the impressions definitely changed a lot. Now it's kind of funny right now. It seems like the place to go. I mean, if you're a musician, a songwriter.
And I'm running on fumes, trying to make it through, trying to get back to you. I know I gotta make it soon. Yes, I do. Running on fumes. Oh.
Nashville's always been, even more so than I think people would ever give it credit for. I think there was the perception that it was only Nashville, was only country music. It's a closed door. And man, that couldn't be further from the truth. You know, there was a great R&B scene here in the 50s. Jimi Hendrix spent time here in the 50s playing the clubs.
I kept gravitating toward Nashville, and I ran into this little bald-headed kid playing in the service club. So I went to introduce myself, and it was a guy named Jimi Hendrix. I said, let's do a little jamming.
I think he was probably the best showman on a guitar ever, of any of us, of anybody, showman-wise. You know?
I think he was a sponge. He had a little Chuck Berry, a little guitar, Watson, and you were an influence, and you were an influence on me, too.
You know, Bob Dylan coming to town to record with Johnny Cash. That, to me, was kind of the beginning of a new age.
Hello, I'm Johnny Cash.
And then the Johnny Cash television show in the early 1970s. The beauties of that show to me was his open-mindedness. And he opened his arms to young songwriters who have since gone on to become, you know, James Taylor and Neil Young and Joni Mitchell and on and on and on and on.
I don't believe you, you're not the truth. No one could look as good as you.
Mercy, that's my line.
I'm a country music artist in Nashville. But Nashville's way, 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 way bigger than country music.
I can go to like a house show and see some punk band from Philadelphia play, and then I can go over to Cowboy Jack's and watch him record Johnny Rodriguez. You know what I mean? And that's all like in one day. It's insane.
It's literally, you know, runs the gamut from the most devout gospel singer to sometimes the most hedonistic rock and roller.
If Hank Williams came back to town, he'd look around going, what's going on?
I just think that there's that many different types of creative personalities that are coming to this town. So that obviously affects what kind of music the town makes.
I feel like I'm not as cool as a lot of the kids walking around here. It's like, wow.
The hipsters have officially invaded Nashville, for sure.
You know, it's interesting, since I moved here, you know, Jack White is making records here. I mean, records.
I mean, Music City is now truly Music City.
Thanks. We're Jeff the Brotherhood from Nashville.
I think genres are dead. There's good music, there's bad music. And I think the cool thing about Nashville is it is at the epicenter of that kind of thinking.
You can't get that many talented people in one area and expect the genres not to grow. The music business is in terrible shape. And I think that everyone is converging on Nashville because we figured out a way to continue making a living at it. And it's a real community that makes that happen. Like I had Flaming Lips come in a few weeks ago in my studio to do some strings. We're doing a record for Kesha, another unlikely Nashville resident. And we're able to work together in a way that gave the Lips their first good experience working with string players.
I was working with Kid Rock back in the A room. And in the B room was a new country singer, a guy, and he was recording a demo. And they had the door open, and Kid Rock was in the kitchen, and he heard this demo, and he liked it, and he went in the room and said, "Hey, can I sing on that?" Of course, the guy was beside himself. Troy Olson is who it was. Troy went, "Yes, you can sing on this." And, you know, next thing you know, now you have Kid Rock singing on your demo.
You go look at all the cool studios from the 60s and early 70s that are most of them out of business and some of them just barely hanging on. And then you come to Nashville and it's the complete opposite.
I feel like Nashville's thriving. People are coming here from all over the world to make records.
One night we had Megadeth, Big and Rich, Mariah Carey, and DMC from Run DMC. That's special.
Things are growing here, and there's a good fire to it. There's a good spirit to it.
That tells you a lot about a city that'll allow, you know, music to grow organically in it and give bands a chance to, you know, go from relatively unknowns like we were when we first started to, you know, getting a star on the Walk of Fame here.
And I think that's what's so special about Nashville is even if you're new and you're coming to town, the town has this energy. It has this creative energy that you never know who you're going to bump into. You never know by what you say to that person becomes the next hit on the radio. There's this thing. There's this thing there that I think's magical.
Well, the camaraderie in this group, the Time Jumpers that I've been playing with almost 3 years now, I used to go down and watch them because I loved what they did. They would call me because they knew I was a musician and one of the guitar players couldn't make it. They'd come sub, and I loved it, you know, when I'd get those calls and run down there and just be a guitar player all night long. It was just for the sake of playing music. There was no money in it, no future to speak of in it, you know, all those things. I just loved saying, hey, let's go play down here at this little club on Monday nights and play the music we love.
I love Karina, tell the world I do. I love Karina, tell the whole world I do. I can't wait till Karina says that she loves me too.
You can go out to a club to hear a band, and you really don't know who might just show up that night.
That's right.
And it's kind of like expected that whoever's local in town, you know, that's performing, you know, for 20,000 people somewhere might just show up about 11 or 12 o'clock and set in.
Yeah, you can go out on any given night and see, you know, some great musicians and maybe even some really famous ones, particularly because it's just about the music here. Because all these guys go out and make their living. You know, when they're here, they're home.
People are always very impressed when they see these singers actually sing live in a very informal setting. I've heard people say that all the time. It's like, wow, I was in Nashville and I saw this little thing at Douglas Corners and could not believe how talented they are. Well, they're sick musicians and sick singers. They're just fantastic.
That's not bad for a piano player.
The great players here are multi-talented.
Oh, yeah.
And they can go up and play with the best of the jazz guys, or they can go down and play with the simplest country with two chords or three changes and do it. Or they can play all over the place.
Oh! Ouch!
No point to that whatsoever, except I want you guys to know who the guitar player in the round was tonight.
We know that already.
I'm glad that I had the audacity to devote my life to music, because there were other directions I could have gone in at the time. I've always felt blessed that something brought me here.
I look at so many cities around the nation that I travel to, come to mind that times aren't so good. The cityscape is weary. The people around the city are weary. They refer to old times as the best of times. But when I come around Nashville and I ride around town, I listen to the music that's being made, when I look around the city at what's being built, I'm very optimistic because it's an upbeat town. I feel like some of its greatest days are ahead of it, and I don't think you could ask for any more than that out of a town.
She's her best in conversation. Never seen her turn away.
And right now, there's some kid writing a song that 5 years from now, we're gonna be going, man, that was a classic song. And I think the future of Nashville is strong because you have a lot of artists that are doing that. We're not the last star that's gonna be out here. You know, there's gonna be many, many more.
I always tell young people, don't ever lose sight of why you ever started to do this. It's because you loved it. To a stranger. And be grateful for today. Open up your family Bible and read what the red words say. And the crowd goes wild.
I mean, I just hope that it continues to flourish, and you know, as long as you can come here, be surrounded by artists and musicians, and just be able to make music. I mean, what else could you want? For me, anyway.
For me, Nashville's sort of one of the last great artist colonies in the world. I mean, this is the only artist colony left on planet Earth.
I feel like Nashville a lot of times. You know, this is a great town, but it's not because we got a beach. You know, it's not because we've got an international fashion scene or anything like that. You know, it's just we took what we had and we did the best we could with it. And I wouldn't trade this place for anything.
I can't imagine living anywhere else. I've always told people that it's going to take an act of the legislature to get me out of here because I ain't going nowhere. I'm here for the rest of my life.
I never was the biggest or the fastest guy. I never hit a home run when the game was tied. I knew from an early age I wasn't gonna be a doctor or the CEO of anything, so I sang.
It's because it's the place that it is and the people it is and the lineage that it has and it just goes on and on and on, attracting new talent, you know.
It's been a migration to Nashville now for 20 years. It's not new, but it's just now really kind of hitting a critical mass.
So I sang. No one believed in me like my old man. He worked hard and bought me my first Fender Strat. When the angels called him home, my mama asked if I would speak, but there were no words to say how much he meant to me. So I sang, it is well with my soul, and I played the roles of San Antonio, 'cause those were Daddy's favorite songs, and what I felt would take too long to say. So I sang.
I'm here for the long run. I'm not going anywhere, and I can't think of any other place that I would want to live and work but Nashville.
Basically, I'm saying there's no more room. Don't move here because there's no room.
Perfect.